God knew before he ever called him up front. Here's a fella here, doesn't have much, got 5 loaves, got 2 fishes, not much, but he's willing to give me everything he's got. I can use that kind of a fella. You know the fella God can use? Not the fella with the biggest brains, not the fella with the most degrees behind his name. There's a lot of folks got so many degrees behind the name they look like a thermometer and still don't run any spiritual temperature. Here was a fella. God could use him. Don't have much, but he'll give me all of it. The fella didn't say, well, now, wait a minute. You can have 1 biscuit and a couple of sardines, but I'm going to keep the other. Jesus said, let me have it. You know what God's looking for? He's looking for a fellow who will put everything in his hands. Give him all of it. You may not have much, but if you're willing to give it over to Christ, lock, stock, and barrel, God can use you. Did you know in the past the great works in America were not built by intellectual geniuses? See, God doesn't need a lot of brains. God's got more sense than you have. He can get along without your brains. What He needs is willingness. What He needs is surrender. You see, God can use about any kind of a stick. Joe Henry Hankins used to preach and say, God can take a crooked stick and hit an awful hard lick with it. When this fellow was brought into notice, what he had was judged insufficient. Here he came, excited. Jesus called him. Hey, bring your lunch up here, fella. Here he came with his lunch, his loaves and his fishes, and he brought it up. And some modernistic somebody said, yeah. What's said among so many? You know, when God calls a fellow to preach, someone to surrender his life to God, usually he has a great ambition and a burning in his soul, and he wants to take the world for Christ. But somebody come along and throw water on him, try to cool him off. I was really excited. I used to preach louder than I do now. And faster. I'd preach so fast I sound like a machine gun firing. I'd run across the pulpit. And an old preacher came up to me one day and patted me on the back. Said, you'll get over this. When you get older, said, you'll calm down. You'll get over this. You'll quit going day and night. You'll settle down when you get older. I said, I hope if I get that old, God lets me die. I don't want to get over this excitement, this enthusiasm. You step out. It's always judged insufficient. You can't get anything done. God can't use that. Yeah. God delights in using small things, base things, things that are not, to bring to naught things that are. Has Satan ever said to you, what's the use of your trying? You can't do anything. Did you ever teach a Sunday school class and then a few weeks and then feel like everything's going wrong? They'll say, well, you can't do anything. Why don't you quit? God can't use you. You never started anything yet, but what the devil said that to you. He tells me every week, you don't have any business to pass the year, and I say, I know it. God don't know it yet. He keeps me here. As long as God don't know any better, I'm going to stay here. Hey, he said, you don't know what you're doing. You can't lead that many people. You need to have a small church. You need to start over again. Yeah. Tells me that every week. That's all God wants. Don't you see that? Just put it over in His hands. And when it was given to Jesus, Jesus took it. He'll take about anything you give Him. I heard Dr. Bob Jones say, God's pretty hard up. He can't get anybody much. Said He'll use you. Isn't that wonderful? You know, he can't be choosy. He can't get a lot of volunteers. He'll use about anybody. I asked John Rice. I said, Dr. Rice, when did God call you to preach? He said, He didn't call me to preach. He said, I just only volunteered. And you know, God'll take about anybody. God needs some people. He'll use you. Give God what you got. No matter how little it is, God can use it. Let Him use it. Kind word to a neighbor on the street. Passing out of a Bible tract, somebody in a hospital corridor. No matter what it is, give it to God.